I landed and did Painted Baby with you guys, I remember that was published. It was in hand. It was, best content I've ever put out. That was when I pitched my first, 5-figure gig and landed it, and then landed another one and then another one. So the book really helped elevate the speaking. Everybody in life has a book. There's a million ways to write a book. And I think it's one of the few things in the world where that energy that you invest, I mean, it is a permanent thing that is there forever. It continues beyond you, and you don't know how that path and that journey is going to go. No, I love these. Yeah, no, I love these. And I'm excited to hang with you, man. It's been talking about this for a number of months.
Yeah, many months. And I know you've got some amazing stories actually about books and about Scribe and about all this. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. And I know that you've been a huge influence on people in your life to get them to write books. Give us the context into which you started writing books, because you've been writing for a long time. You're up to 3 books now.
3. Yeah. And I have a 4th in process, just on pause right now. And that's totally okay. I mean, a little bit of backstory. I am the typical serial entrepreneur, found out at a pretty young age I'm unemployable, and had to be doing something. I'm very active. My mind goes a million miles a minute. Found out I was unemployable in my adult life after graduating college. I got fired from a corporate banking job, and I had some experience in college working with a college painting company. So I came home that day and I'm like, I got to figure something out pretty quick. That turns into launching what I thought would be just a temporary holdover, like a painting company, to not drown financially. And it took off really quickly. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I'm just a nobody college kid knocking on doors, painting houses. And a group of business guys asked me to come speak at a little business networking event. I'm like, speak? I'm deathly afraid of public speaking. And I got up there and fumbled around, a couple of notes about some aggressive marketing that we did. So speaking was actually what led me to writing. I am actually physically, technically not a great sit down and write English words on paper. I started a lot with speaking, but my inspiration for the first book that I wrote was totally not from a context of thinking that I was an author or getting into the mindset of you can sell books and make a living and have this grow you in lots of different ways. I got a speaking engagement opportunity. I had 1 talk that I did, and the gal said, well, I need 2. I go, well, I have 1. And she said, Matt, if you want to speak and get paid, and we're paying at the time was $1,500. I thought that was a lot of money then for a speaker. I said, well, I'll come up with a second one. We had just won a bunch of business awards. And I said, I'll do a keynote about how to win business awards, right? Just thinking that would be the filler and she would pick this one, because she actually saw me present this one. And what does she pick, right? What does she pick? How to win business awards. I'm like, shoot, now I need to actually produce this. What I found is as long as you're 1 step ahead of wherever you need to be in business life, that's okay. And I show up and I present this, and it was great. And somebody came up and said, this would be a really cool book. So my first book was in 2011, Become an Award-Winning Company. And it was just a process of how a business can go through, whether they've got, money, time, anything brand new. Here's the business award industry and world and how you can crack into it, win awards, and then use that to leverage your name, your brand, gain leads, gain client base. It was the POD days, right? Print on demand. I sat at Starbucks, wrote it out, hired who I thought was a great editor, laid it out like crap, cover looked like crap. I mean, looking back, right, with what I know now, didn't know how to write a book. And I thought magically, Eric, you write a book and it will sell, like Field of Dreams style, right? If you build it or whatever it is, right? And no, so it was just a nice business card, but it pinned me as an author. But then that's when I started really digging into that space of what does it mean to really write a great book? How do you write a great book? And came across you guys about a decade later.
Yeah. And did you enjoy that process? Having written that book, were you
yeah, absolutely. It was fun. It just started and it's okay. I mean, I'm not advising against it. I think everybody in life has a book. There's a million ways to write a book. Scribe works well for some. It might not be a good fit for some, and that's okay. But just start writing, start getting those ideas out. But if you want to be serious about it, you've got to understand why you want to write it. What is the why behind it? How do you want it to position you? Because it could actually do a little bit of detriment if you don't do it well, in my opinion and experience.
Yeah. Did that first book do any that's a great point. Did it do any harm? Did it set you back? Did it confuse your brand? Anything like that? No?
No, because I was like M&E, right? So M&E Painting is the
Mm,
company we started. So I was M&E Matt, the painter guy,
yep.
and now had a book. So I think it positioned me as, hey, Matt wrote a book. I had a lot of people reach out, ask advice about it, which love helping people. So that was cool. I don't think it devalued my brand as an entrepreneur. When I did get into the, more serious speaking realms and meeting other speakers who were also authors, they're like, hey, Matt, who did that cover? Mike
Mm.
McCallowix is a great friend of mine. He's a huge mentor. He's like, yeah, you created, or you, what did he say? You hit some major sins of authorship, and he was like super loving about it. But as I started spending more time with serious authors, I learned a lot more.
Yeah, design is one of those things that's very everybody's sort of aware of it at a subconscious level, but not everyone is able to sort of evaluate good design. And it's very difficult, when some designer's charging you $1,000 and someone's charging you 10,000, you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna end up with a book cover at the end of the day. But the nuance between like what is really a great design and what that says to people about you and your book and the idea and how seriously to take it, like that's there's a meaningful difference, but it's hard to
And
get everybody to see that.
there is. And now that I've gone through this, a number of times, meet a speaker or an author and they go, here's my book. And as soon as I grab it, and maybe I'm judgmental, call it that if you want, but I mean, I make a judgment about that book and I may not even open it based on the cover, right? The cover should
Mhm.
entice you to turn it over and read the description, which should entice you to then open it. And a good cover and a good flow of that psychology and text does that is what I've learned really from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a line that I really like is you can only conceive of the level of excellence you've seen before. And so experiencing, having gone through that, once or twice, or just really being, yeah, detailed and critical about what you want to have happen there. So you become a huge, speaker. It's a big part of your life and career now. Is this a surprise to you as somebody that, as you said, had a, had great fear and hatred of public speaking?
It's funny. So I still keep in touch with my second grade teacher from elementary school. So shout out to Ruth Rennie, and she's not watching the podcast because she doesn't have the technology to do that. But she lives in New Jersey. I went to elementary school there. Dude, I should be dead in prison or disappeared. Like that's where all the kids I ran around with ended up. The majority of them. So I mean, just the fact that I'm here and alive and successful and have just that story is amazing. But no, growing up as a kid, like I could not sit down, I could not shut up, and I had a teacher. This is Jersey in the 80s, right? So you got to remember the context. She said, sit down and shut the F up. Like you are going to end up in prison one day for all the talking you do. And so to get paid to speak, I just think is kind of fun and
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. And speaking is something that I love to do. It's such a craft. It's such a responsibility to stand there in a room, whether it's 2, 3 people, 300, 3,000, whatever that is, and have something to say that can impact their lives. And I've learned so much from great speakers about how to do that.
Do you feel like the speaking career drove the author career, vice versa? Like, how did they sort of they co-evolve? It seems like pretty commonly, but everybody seems to have a different version of how it happens for them.
Yeah, for me, I was already speaking and just starting to get paid. Because for any speakers out there, the minute somebody asks you your fee and you can't just shoot it out like that with confidence, that's like Mike is like, that's one of the sins. If you can't say that,
Mm,
they're going to know that you're not there yet. So that I had to get over. Then I start getting paid, little bits here and there to speak. And I had my first book, and I think they were coinciding together. Where the real big jump was for me is I just couldn't crack that. I had never received a 5-figure engagement, right? And I'm
mm,
not doing this as like a main first place profession. I'm still running my other companies. And I said, that's going to be a cool goal. When I landed and did Painted Baby with you guys, I remember that was published. It was in hand. It was, best content I've ever put out. That was when I pitched my first, 5-figure gig and landed it, and then landed another one and then another one. So the book really helped elevate the speaking. I do lead more with I'm a speaker author
mhm.
than author speaker. Like just my heart and my passion is speaking that message.
Super interesting. Did you know, was that like why you set off to write and publish Painted Baby to try to clear that threshold, or did you just want to write a book and it happened to work out that way?
I wanted to write a better book, and I was really intrigued by the Scribe process. So
Mm,
Painted Baby started in 2015, and I, started pick it up, right? Go to the coffee shop, a little bit here, a little bit there. It was messy. And I just put it down, and I didn't
mm,
finish it. And I said, this is such a great story. It's actually become one of the foundational components of how we do business,
mm.
because it's all about just being vulnerable and real about you're human and you mess up. And if you actually share one of those like train wreck stories, you'll actually build more trust with people and they'll engage with you at a higher level. And I said, my buddy Mike, he's like, you've got to get this book out, but it can't suck like the first one. Then I did. So it was a 9-year journey of starting it, picking it up, putting
Wow.
it down. But it wasn't the primary goal, no, to answer the question like, hey, I want to be a 5-figure speaker. It was, I want to get out a great book. This message needs to come out, because I knew what it would
Mhm.
do for our painting company, and had just had a lot of encouragement. It felt like just an unfinished, I'm like, I can't leave this earth without getting this message out, you know?
Yeah, that is a powerful motivator, actually. When you have those kind of like, if I died tomorrow, what projects do I wish I'd finished kind of stuff? I've definitely had chapters where a book was one of those. Like, damn, that I'll be I will haunt myself if I don't finish that one. Okay, so that is super interesting. I often say like books sort of create these unexplained good things that happen, and the fact that you set off with like a business case and it had this impact on your speaking career is a really interesting one. So, how did it fit into the business? Because this is not a business book, really.
It's a business audience, right? I think there's
Okay.
there's a professional personal development, but definitely a business enhancement component to it. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of, business and personal stories of me and others that have made mistakes. So the premise of the book is, right, painting a picture of perfection prevents true connection. And I talk about it in the business and the sales sense, but then it also
Mm,
really translates over to life. Like, we live in this culture of everybody's putting their best moments online and on their
yeah.
billboards and on their shiny marketing brochure. So I angle it as a business book, but the feedback that I've received has been just as equal of, man, this helps me overcome an addiction or just present my real self to the world as an employee in a business.
Yeah.
So it's hit lots of different ways, some that were unexpected, which was really cool.
Yeah. So did you mention that you're like giving this to customers? Like, how do you use it in your business day to day?
Yeah. So I mean, for any business owner, right, you have your story, right? Whether your origin story, your like hook the customer, show where you're unique. And every business does this that understands marketing. They have some kind of like tangible. We have a little, I call it a shiny marketing brochure, and I actually tell the customer when I'm with them, and we've trained the team. Here's our shiny marketing brochure. Look at all the awards that we've won. Here's all of the credibility, our Google reviews, our A star, 5+. Here's some jobs we did, and then I actually there's a whole page in the brochure. Should grab it with me, and it has the cover of the book with little painted, like my daughter painted. I just, hey, we're not perfect. Like, this is
Mhm.
everything that we intend to do. But if we screw something up, we're going to take accountability for it. And hey, we painted a baby once on a job site. Do you want to hear about it? Nobody says no to that. It's just this amazing hook. They're like, you did what? So we share the story. Paint sprayer explodes right by the mom holding her baby, in the back of the house, and that they're just immediately engaged. So it creates engagement with clients, but it's just, hey, we're not a perfect company, and it lowers their guard, shows that we're human, and then they just know, hey, like, something doesn't go right, Amity will fix it. And then we'll actually show them some testimonials, like, hey, talk to this client, like, things didn't start off well, and they're one of our number one fans right now.
Yeah. That's such a powerful thing I want to say it's disarming, but it's actually just trust building. Like, I feel like everybody's worst fear is that they're going to be stuck in this kind of dead end situation. They're going to be powerless. They're going to like be in a bad situation, and the company's not going to care, or there's not a human on the other side who's going to like be reasonable and rational and actually take care of them. And to have a story that great, but then have invested so much in the telling of that story at such a high level and really making it like part of your process and part of your culture. And then of course your whole company knows that story, and it infuses probably their attitude and how they approach customers. Like, that's a really it's a really powerful way to kind of bake an idea into a culture, because then it forces everybody to be like talking about it and have shared language for it. And they're making commitments to people externally. about this way that they're going to be treated all the time. Like, that's incredible.
And then if something does not go according to plan, I mean, the customers don't come at you with as much anxiety. They're like, "Hey, you remember that?" I had one like a couple months ago. "Hey, you remember that painted baby situation? I think we've got a little painted baby situation." He goes, "Matt, it's not that bad, but I know you'll take care of it." You know,
Hmm.
whatever the issue was, I don't even remember, but it just makes life and business a lot easier. And then, as I'm talking to business owners or just coaching like young men, I've got a passion to help, men become better men. And hey, like start sharing some of this stuff. They're like, I'm not connecting. I'm not landing where I want to land in life. And I go, well, let's maybe build a story around some of these moments that you think are actually detriments, right? That you think are going
Hmm.
to devalue you and actually have them elevate you.
Yeah, it's like that paradox of embarrassment. Like, if you try to hide something embarrassing, it becomes more embarrassing. And if you just throw it out on the table, it becomes, a funny, vulnerable sort of shared appreciation with somebody, which is, it's just bonding. Yeah. So did you, I mean, you had this conversation with kind of Mike, your mentor, and he urged you to sort of publish your third book then, I believe, at, Painted Baby was your third. That was the second. Okay. So there's a
That
third
was
one to
number
go.
two. Yeah.
Okay. At like a higher level of professionalism and polish. Was that a hard decision for you to do, having like been through it all before? You'd kind of done the DIY approach, which is much lower cost, and you'd seen some results with that. Not, but was that a tough leap to make?
No, no, because at that point it had been so long. I already had so much of the content and idea. I was
Mm,
just, I was ready, right? And
okay.
and for an author, like you have to be ready. You have to commit whatever the process, whoever the company, you have to build a team, right? To do this. You don't
Yeah.
do this alone. However, that is, you've got to be committed. So no, I had no issue. Like as soon as we signed, we jumped into it. Like we hit all the deadlines. It was amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Since the book has been out, have there been any fun surprises, things you couldn't have predicted, doors that opened that you never would have expected as a result of the book?
It's really interesting. I'll just get a random email from somebody anywhere in the country or even like out of the country. Oh, I got my hands on this book from so and so in this channel, and I'm like, this is crazy. Somebody that I've never met in the world has this
Hmm.
message, and there's not like one specific one that really hits really hard. But it's just these little messages. Hey, I came across this. I thought it was a great story. We shared it.
Hmm.
We shared it with our sales team, or we shared it with a men's Bible study or a men's group or something like that. So I just think
Yeah.
that's really cool that you can put content. I actually have. We were talking maybe before we officially started recording, I put some coaching content out like 10 years ago, kind of walked away, didn't do much with it since then. It lives online somewhere. And I just got a letter from an inmate in a correctional facility in Florida. He's been there 35 years. He's going to be there for a long time. And he goes, hey, this was really valuable for us. And I want you to jump on a Zoom call and teach this to some juveniles in the correctional facility. So, like that kind of
Really
stuff, this
cool.
was like
Yeah.
something that was in your brain that everybody and everything's telling you maybe not to create, because authors get that too. And then you put it out there, right? And then this happens like 12 years later, 15 years later. It's crazy.
Yeah, these it's such surprising things that happen when you have that more surface area in the world. And I think that's a good, like you mentioned at the top, bringing, not really setting out to become an author. You were just kind of writing. You were just externalizing this thing. You were just trying to share and teach. And I think some people kind of build up this, they get stuck on an identity. They're like, I'm not an author, so I can't write. It's like, everybody can express themselves. Like, everybody has a natural way to do it. And even if you're not necessarily a comfortable, confident writer, you can speak, you can work with somebody, especially with AI and transcription tools. Like, just as long as you have the energy to kind of keep talking, and you never know who you're going to help. Your story is unique no matter who you are. And it's not up to you to judge like whether your story is going to be helpful for somebody or whether what you can teach. Just put it out there and trust that the right people will find their way to it. And I've seen that over and over again. That is an amazing story of it. And the fact that it happens, not always in year 1, but sometimes in year 10, 15, 20, is unbelievable. And the impact just compounds.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the few things in the world where that energy that you invest, I mean, it is a permanent thing that
Hmm.
is there forever. It continues beyond you. And you don't know how that path and that journey is going to go.
Yeah. What did you do differently when you were marketing and setting out this second book? I imagine you learned a lot, but it's a bigger investment. You were in a whole different sort of strata as a speaker and an author, and presumably had some audience and influence by then. How did you take this book out into the world? What did you do to promote it?
Yeah, so I mean, my marketing plan was pretty simple. I mean, I've got a kind of a local sphere from the other businesses that I've been in. So we've got multiple companies. So cross promoting was always a really big thing. So you've got
Mm,
your main sphere, like, hopefully your friends and family are going to buy it, but then your
yeah.
business connections. So we were cross marketing, and then we were just doing outreach. Actually, ended up landing and working with a speaking agent who, it was funny, she was booking me kind of these small gigs, kind of testing me out before I had Painted Baby, the book. I was speaking about it, and she's like, Matt, once you land this book and it looks good, and it did, she goes, I'm going to put you out there more. So landing that, and then each one of those, each event that I do, I try to turn that into something new. I'm very
Mm,
relational. I don't do big like funnels or online. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just more of a, personal connection, networking, referral kind of a guy. And that's been great for how I want to have the book land out there and what I want it to do for me in the businesses.
I think people really underestimate the impact that a book can have, even with small numbers of readers, relatively, right? Like going in understanding that it's really rare to have a book, sell 10,000 copies or have it spread and go viral like wildfire. But even 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 copies out in the world, and I don't know your number, so I'm not projecting, but like that, the impact on a local basis and moving through those kind of personal networks can still have a huge impact on your business, your culture, your community. Was there anything else you did, kind of speaking agent, second book, done at a higher level of kind of polish, and you'd been getting a bunch of reps at kind of the four-figure speaking? Was there anything else you did to kind of break through that 4 to 5 figure threshold? I feel like that's a huge goal for people.
On the speaking side
Yeah.
is believe you're worth it.
Mm.
And that's just, it's the way you say it. I don't know if you've ever been there in life, right? Like how much is the Scribe professional package? You're like, now hold on. It's
Yeah.
it's 50,000. But
Yeah.
well, let me tell you, versus like it's only 50,000. And this, you are going to have the most impactful, amazing book out there in the world.
Yeah.
Just the way you say it. And some speakers don't believe they are, and they're caught in this trap. Well, I can't believe I am until somebody's willing to pay it, but you can't even
Mm.
state it with confidence. And that was part of, maybe more so than Painted Baby, right? That landed me that first gig. It was right alongside. They're holding the book on the Zoom call. Boom, it's this price. Okay, come on out.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
I think there's that. And then once you land that, if you're a speaker, increase, maybe you start just being thankful you can even get paid. And
Mm.
$500 is a lot. Great. You did one for 500, go to 1,000. I'm working with Rick on this right now. Like I
Mm.
told him on a previous gig, I said, hey, you need to put this number out there, because that's so high. I said, just shut up and do it, man. Because if you undervalue yourself, that they might not think you're going to bring value because you're less than what they're willing to pay or have in the budget, and just start ticking it up,
Yeah.
connecting with other speakers too, right? So meeting other speakers on that circuit, having them see your content. Maybe you can't land a gig, so you refer Dave Sanderson, right? Miracle on the Hudson. He was a huge mentor of mine. And then he sends something to you. So there's that. And just getting into that space and that world is huge. I also, another thing would just go hand out books. I have a certain amount of books where, like, I don't care if you buy it or not. I meet you, I have a great conversation. I'm going to sign a book for you and hope it lands somewhere in the future. And it will. And it does.
That long game, having a habit around just keeping it sort of present and keeping using it for years and years is so powerful. Again, just like thinking about the surface area, and you just want thousands of these books out there in the world. Thinking back to where you were, maybe you were just first starting Painted Baby. Let's do that. 'Cause you had your first book out, but you were really at the crux of the decision to kind of make a big swing at a big next book. What is the most important advice you'd give to somebody in that situation?
Yeah. Is remember why you're doing this and who it's going to impact. But, but if that message doesn't get out, well, how are you letting the world down? Right. And that's a very like negative
Mm,
takeaway, whatever kind of approach you want to call it. But like, what if you don't write this book? and somebody's not holding it. Like, what if, think of some of the most impactful books that you've read that have changed your life. What if that guy was just having a bad day or was scared or whatever, whatever the excuses are that you have, write them down and say, well, what if, Dave Ramsey or Mike McCallowicks or whoever's impacted your life just took that advice and didn't do that, right? Like, where would you be? And you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to visualize it. Like there's always somebody. We've all had that experience of changing somebody's life sort of one-on-one sitting across a table. And a book is just a really powerful way to do that at scale. And yeah, I think people are afraid to be preachy or put themselves out there or something like that. But everybody who opens your book wants to open your book. And it's not a signed reading. So you never know who you're going to help.
And there will be people that hate it and talk shit about it, like, and that's fine, and that hurts. They're like, "Oh, Painted Baby, I did. Painted Baby was the worst message. That was stupid." Okay, like, didn't land with you. That's okay, and you can't focus on that. Like, what you do, you put yourself out there, and there's like a nakedness, right, of a speaker, author. Like, you're putting out your story, and it's going to land how it lands with people, and not everybody is your people.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny. Like I cured myself of that fear in like one epiphany, which is if you don't like it, I didn't make it for you. You should have put it down. I don't know why you think I needed to make it for you. If you don't like it, like there's lots of things that are made for us. And
you're sure spending a hell of a lot of
fine.
time talking about how much you hate it when you could be bringing value to other people or doing other things you love. So go do that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Matt, that's an amazing place to leave it. Thank you so much for putting yourself out there, for taking the time, for sharing with authors, for staying on the journey that you're on, for choosing Scribe. We've been really honored to play a part in your journey, and thank you for continuing to bring other folks our way too. It means a lot.
No, love and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for Scribe and everything Scribe is doing for the world.